Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is birthdaysk, and you are watching Cough House. So we have a new segment we want to introduce to y'all called ProudCasual. It's basically going to cover all things MMA or UFC related specifically. And I figured what better event to start the segment with than UFC 300, which is sure to be, a night of fireworks and all that. How these cards usually go. From 6 p.m., those usually the early prelims. Then we have the prelims, and then the good fight starts. And sometimes we get some good in the prelims. But this is going to be on fire from the very first fight. From 6 p.m. until, you know what I'm saying? But let's get right into it. So for the first fight of the night, we're starting with Garbrandt versus Figueiredo. So both of these are former champions. And although Cody's had kind of a rough couple fights in his last recent years, he's kind of had like a comeback with him winning his last two fights, one of them by knockout. And we can't forget, he was like kind of the best fighter of all time for about 25 minutes against Dominic Cruz.
I told you, homeboy, you can't touch this. Yeah, that's how.
And, his punching power is, and has always been, a serious threat. You know what I'm saying? You can't count that out ever. Then we have Figueiredo, who's also a former champion. A great fighter. He ran the entire flyweight division, only being beaten by Brandon Moreno, who you can't take nothing from him for that. And by the way, this is just the early prelim card. This is the fight that usually takes place when the only person there is the ref. So that's the kind of time we're working on. Then the next fight we got coming up is Jim Miller versus Bobby Green. And, Jim Miller's always been like a beloved fighter in UFC, winning a fight at UFC 100, winning a fight at UFC 200. It's only right that he be on the UFC 300 fight card. And against him, we have Bobby Green, Mr. Always ready for a fight, Mr. Always ready to put on a good show and a good fight. And although he recently lost to Jalen Turner, that fight spoke more about how great Jalen is rather than Bobby himself. It's likely to be a 10 out of 10 fight, and I'm sure it won't disappoint us. Then we have Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. Now, I won't talk too much about fighters when I don't know a lot about them or I don't watch them super intensely when they're on screen. That'd be kind of lame. But from what I've seen from Marina Rodriguez, whenever she fights, whether in her wins or losses, she always seemed like a solid fighter to me either way. I think she almost got like a title shot at one point, and she kind of faces a really good test in Jessica. And every time I see Jessica, she's a tank. You know what I'm saying? She's like, she can't be stopped. So I can't help but think that this is going to be a very, very good one. And then next we have Jalen Turner versus Renato. While I've always liked his fighting style, Renato's energy and trash talk are really the 10 out of 10 factor with him for me. Even with his broken English, his trash talk goes super hard.
Today, I'm best.
Well, you certainly are at another level.
Let's go, New York. Make some noise.
I love it.
Renato, I have to be on ranking, man. This is disrespect. I took a fight, 5-round fight in 4 days notice. Short day notice. I drinking beer, eating steaks in Brazil. And they call me, and I'm come here. I travel 24 hours. Disrespect me. I want bonus. My Colonel wants money.
But at the same time, Jalen Turner ain't no hoe. So, while his loss to Dan Hooker kind of dimmed the light a little bit, Jalen's still a problem for sure. And besides, losing to Dan Hooker doesn't really discredit anybody's skills. Dan been stamped as a monster. But I think with the reach Jalen has, it's probably going to be the biggest issue Renato faces during the fight. Remember his fight with Bobby Green, what Jalen did to him. So, you feel me? But regardless, it should be a good fight if Renato uses his ground game pretty early. I really can't wait for this one. Then we have Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. And regardless of all the hate Sterling gets, Sterling is a problem, and we know that. I know the fight with Peter Yan's situation kind of stained the whole vibe for a minute, but you can't deny his skills, and you can't deny his status in the entire UFC. He's a former champ, and he's very stamped, very certified. However, Calvin's takedown defense is top tier at 91%, and seeing as how Sterling's bread and butter tends to be his groundwork, Calvin's a real issue for Sterling, for real. And, after what Max did to Calvin, it kind of looked like Calvin might be done. However, he has shown in his recent fights that he's still top of the division. And I feel like we can, I feel like both of them can look forward to a title shot if they were to win. So they both are fighting for a lot, which usually guarantees that the fight's going to come out to be a good scrap. Then we have Yuri versus Alexander. So Yuri is a former champ and has shown consistently that he can and is most likely to beat anybody that you put in front of him. A real life samurai out this bitch. But, even with his recent loss to Alex, which I super want to see them fight it again. But even with that loss, Yuri still retains like the aura and the dominance that he's like known for. And, like Rocket, while he isn't a former champ, he's always been like a top of the line contender. You feel me? Like his injury versus Jan put him on the sideline for a bit. But I think had he won that fight with Jan, he probably would have gotten a title shot. So in this case, I think both fighters can expect a title shot if they were to win. And like I said earlier, that always, or most times, that usually makes for a good fight. And that's just the last fight of the prelims. Like, that's not even, the chicken ain't even cooked yet. So now, let's get into it, the main event. We got Bo Nickel versus Cody. So, Bo Nickel's hype train is crazy strong, and from what we've seen, it's very valid. It's very valid. Roll is the truth, for real. And his opponent, Cody, has had like a shaky start in the UFC with some losses at a time when you really don't want to get too many losses at the beginning of your career and whatnot. But no one's really expecting Bo to lose this, to be honest. But his name is so big and highlights are always something special to watch. So, it's on the pay-per-view, I guess. But then we got Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. And in this fight, we have the beloved Du Bronx going up against the best up-and-comer in the lightweight division, really, in Arman. And so up until this, Charles has really been almost perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like, almost perfect. Almost 100%. A 9 out of 10, really. He's a former champ who, dominated everybody at the top of the division, except for Islam, of course. However, he did come back and dominate Beneil right after Islam. So, keep that in consideration. So the aura of his greatness and dominance is still super present for me. The aura of his dominance and skills in the division is still there for Charles. Definitely. And his opponent, Arman, has shown up against all of his opponents. He even did a good job against the juggernaut that is Islam when they fought earlier on. So I'm super excited for this one, but it's definitely not the only big lightweight scrap on this card. We have Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. The tank himself, Justin Gaethje. While he did lose to Charles, he has come back and shown us that he's still him. He took wins against Dustin the Problem and Fazil. You feel me? Like, Justin stands as a pretty big factor in the lightweight division still. And his opponent, Max Holloway, is definitely a fan favorite and is no stranger to the lightweight division. While he's lost to Dustin, he did show that he's ready for anything and has been putting on the muscles for real this time. And his cardio and endurance have always been a factor. And I think they'll be his biggest friends in this fight coming up, in my opinion. So then we have Weili Zhang versus Yan. This fight would have been fire in China. I'm not going to lie. It would have been super flame in China. But we have the champion versus the number one contender. That's always going to be flame. That's always going to be, oh my goodness. You know what I'm saying? And this is the co-main event. This is the co-main event of the night. This is the chicken's almost ready kind of fight. And when I think about what I've seen from them, I can't help but think a Dragon Ball Z kind of fight for real. I hope that doesn't sound too crazy, but literally, it's going to be speed and power. This can really be contender for fight of the night because the kind of speed and power that they both bring. Now, while I think Yan is a bit faster, it doesn't really matter. Vegeta's faster than Goku. It does not matter. It's going to be a good one. I can feel it. So finally, we get to the main event, which is Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. So a little backstory. Jamal Hill, he beat Glover Teixeira to win the light heavyweight belt, but because he got an injury, he vacated the title. And then that led to Alex. And then that led to Alex. And Alex had a great run in the middleweight division. He even won the belt and came up and beat Yuri for the belt in a light heavyweight division fight, which was fantastic because we already know what kind of problem Yuri is. So he up right now, like double champ shit. So, like, when I first saw this fight announced, I felt like Alex has this in the bag. It's easy. But after I've given it more, like, thought and time, this is really going to be a good one on either side. Because first, Hill is no slouch, and he earned that belt properly. And he has something to prove. And that does matter, I feel. That really does matter when neither guy is a scrub. And Hill's been talking like he's going to run the hands with Alex, which is crazy. So it's really going to come down to either Hill ends up stunning all of us and pulling off something crazy, which is possible, but, you know, it'd stun us and it'd be crazy. Or Alex gets a fantastic KO highlight, which is always 10 out of 10. So either way, main event, promise to satisfy. We have a great weekend. I hope y'all like and subscribe to the Cough House. Check out our other stuff, X-Rated, Cinemac, all that. You'll love it. And, you know, hope you have a great time and y'all be safe.